This podcast is highly sponsored by Thriveys. Thriveys is the first mental health product line with affordable products you can use whenever you need something to lean on for emotional or mental support. Currently, we have coloring books of all ages and affirmation mugs. There are some new products coming up, so you need to make sure that you check out Thriveys on Instagram and Facebook so that you don't miss out on the updates. And yes, listener donations are also welcome. You can drop your donation on 0770-338-440. The number is registered in the names of Navu Network. If you're not in Uganda, remember to add the country code +256 770 338 440. Hey, welcome to #WinDubGuzichwanuka. This is the #1 African millennial podcast that sits at the intersection of mental health, self-discovery, and personal growth. If you're new here, welcome to your new virtual home. Be sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening in so that you don't miss out on any of the future episodes. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for being the heartbeat of the show. So for today's conversation, I sit down with my good friend Rodney Kiggundu, and I texted him a few hours ago. Okay, not a few, very many hours ago. I texted him reminding him of what our friendship looked like in the beginning. And I don't think I would really call it a friendship at the time because that was odd. I don't think I have ever started a friendship with any other person the way how I did with Rodney. So let me give you a context. What was happening is that I think there were so many ads that were popping up in my news feeds on Facebook, and they were related to art stuff, funding, fellowships, and all those kinds of things. And so every pop-up that came, I would share the link with him. And I think because I was interacting a lot with that kind of content, the algorithms just kept pushing that stuff my way. So I would send him. And then at some point, he started sending me stuff as well. So it's like our inbox was like an exchange program. No, hi, no, how are you? Like, I think it's him who started the conversation. So yes, I have a conversation with him today, and amongst the things that he reveals in this conversation, in this episode 150. First of all, I'm sorry for disappearing. Oh my God. Yeah, we experienced some loss in the family, but here I am. So yes, here is episode 150, and I'm having the conversation with none other than Rodney Kiggundu. Rodney turned his childhood coping mechanism into a thriving career. I don't know if there is any story of that kind, but that is Rodney's story. Growing up, he used art as a way to process overwhelming emotions, and what began as an emotional outlet evolved into a full-fledged passion and profession. So in this episode, while we explore art as a powerful tool for holistic well-being, we're going to hear how Rodney transformed that healing into a whole career. So whether you're an artist or simply someone seeking emotional release, this episode will inspire you to turn struggles into strength. So let's dive into it. Rodney, welcome to #WinDubGuzichwanuka.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I've been amazing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think someone has said that.
It's been amazing. I think it has been a roller coaster, yeah. So far, a lot is going on, a lot of changes happening, a lot of reflections. Yeah, a lot of good news, a lot of exciting news. And yeah, it's been an amazing year so far.
So far, amazing.
Yeah.
For someone that doesn't know who Rodney is, tell us, who is Rodney Kiggundu?
Rodney Kiggundu I could say he's, first of all, a very happy person, a very lively person.
Are you?
Yeah. People think I'm shy. I used to be shy though.
You're avoiding eye contact, so
Yeah, so
perhaps you're still shy.
I'm still a bit shy, yes. But I think I'm getting out of that bubble slowly, and it's been amazing doing that. I think part of it has been my journey as an artist. So Rodney Kiggundu is an artist, a visual artist, and I think partly that has enabled me to get out of that bubble, get out and speak to people, get out and reach out to people. Part of that has been embedded in that. So I'm really excited that I can even be here speaking
On the podcast.
at #, with Nabuguzi Chiwanuka. So it's really amazing.
The first time I met you was at MOOC, and I don't know if you remember.
I do remember, actually.
We were walking out, I don't know with who, and you introduced yourself, and I was like, because just following and mysterious-ish person, artist. Just you. The only thing you share about is art, so you're like, okay. And I was like, this is a very tall human being.
I remember you said that.
I did.
And also, as a fan, I was a fan of the podcast. I used to see quite a lot of the work that you were doing, especially around mental health, which was really exciting to see. But also because I'm really invested in, of course, how my art influences other parts of the economy. I was really fascinated to meet you and see you physically, because most times we just listen to the person behind the microphone.
Yeah.
And for me, it was an amazing thing, an amazing compliment. Calling me tall. Not
Get
many
out.
people.
Don't you know that you're tall?
According to the some people I've met, I think I'm not the tallest.
No, get out.
But I'm 6 foot.
You don't
6
have to
feet,
be
so
you don't have to be the tallest. You're tall.
I'm tall.
You're tall.
I'm tall. Yeah, but it was an amazing time meeting you, but also getting to know that you actually knew Mafavi, and I had studied with Mafavi, which is pretty much.
No, but I didn't know him.
You didn't know him. Oh, when we were walking, it seemed like you guys knew each other. So
No, I think I was working with someone else.
maybe we're missing one person in the equation.
It must have been Kagwa.
Really?
Or Okello.
Okello, yeah.
We were with
Okello. Okello, yes.
Yeah.
Okello. Yeah, I think Okello.
It was
Because
him.
Okello
I remembered.
knows tribes, but also because we studied with Okello. And yeah, for me, it's always good when like two people that don't know each other meet, and then they find someone who is like a mutual friend. For me, it's always like, oh, it's like the universe is trying to connect the dots. So it was really, really, I think, an amazing thing to get to meet you. I wasn't a person who usually went out to events. I'm an introvert. I don't know. I think I'm an introverted extrovert. Or extroverted introvert. But one of the two. Mm-hmm. So whenever I would go to events, most times I would keep like a low profile, but also either be in the background, just study the room. And I think I do that a lot at events, even in spaces.
Right.
So me getting out and reaching out and talking to people at events, also getting to introduce myself. At this time, at this stage, it's really amazing for people to get to know what I do, mm-hmm. and for people to listen in and get to care.
Get to care.
And for me, I recently, I got to find out, I think I also have that, it's called imposter syndrome, where you feel like, okay, someone is going to just walk in and be like, you're not supposed to be here.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll talk about that later.
Oh, but that one isn't.
Yeah, it isn't.
For that event, no one would have said that.
For me, that's what I feel. So there's two extremes to this. The first extreme is people are going to like recognize you and come to you, or the next extreme is someone is going to walk out and be like, that guy is a fraud.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Have you been fraudulent in your life?
No, not sure.
Say the truth to shame the devil.
Remember, I don't think so. But many times when I do something extraordinary, I feel like, okay, and with limited resources, I feel like, okay, I feel like I don't deserve this, and I feel like I'm a fraud, and people are going to find out I used limited resources to achieve this great, extraordinary thing. So for me, it's always the two extremes at the events, and
right.
That's why I always keep a low profile and first read the room. And I think the first thing is connect with the people I probably know. Yeah, and then when people who don't know me then come in, I try as much as possible to really, really, really understand why are they actually, why me, why are they reaching out to me and all that. Yeah, so, but it's something that, of course, when you know and you see it happening, it becomes quite an exciting thing to explore, especially when you go to different spaces. You know, most artists, and I think you've noticed this as well, most artists get to engage in artist spaces. But I've had an opportunity to be in different spaces that don't just have artists in them. And there's also, it's quite different also, the way people engage with you and the way people relate with you in such spaces. So for me, it's me learning how to work around that in the different spaces.
Yeah, let us talk about the shy, and this is in quotes. Let us talk about the shy Rodney.
Yeah.
What was your childhood like? Do you feel like you've always been shy?
I feel like, I think growing up, I'm the second born in our family. I have an elder sister, and then I have two brothers who are younger than me. And for me, I think when I was still young, I think my sister was my protector. She used to be that outgoing, extroverted person that used to be the most proactive person at school. I think I went to Macnon Road Kindergarten. That was our nursery. I remember there used to be Kathy, she's called Kathy. We used to have a family friend called Sandra. So these two were in the same age bracket. And then I was the young one. So we were in the same school. So these two would cause a lot of chaos in the school. Imagine nursery. But then I would see the chaos, but then I would just keep quiet because, of course, they know I wouldn't report them. But it's also because I knew the repercussions of me coming out to speak or coming out to say anything.
Right.
Of course, if the teachers don't beat them and beat me as well, then they would probably beat me themselves when you go back home. So right. I think that kind of put me in a place whereby I used to always look out for them whenever there was trouble. And that is also because I grew up without my father. And this kind of had a dent in my life. I'm a Situlin dent. That means I didn't have a figure to look out to, a figure to talk to. And I think that kind of brought about the shyness. Every time something happened, I think we would run to my mom. She was a tough disciplinarian as well. So if something is wrong, of course you wouldn't run to her. Or if you did something wrong, you couldn't run to her because you know it would be canes and canes and canes. But then if also it was something right, you know, of course you would run to her. But then I think it's also because I lacked someone to run to, especially as a guy, with the things I was going through, with the changes that were happening with the lifestyle that was happening by then. Yeah, so that kind of put a dent in my growing up. And I feel like part of the introvertedness, like the kind of person who doesn't get to share, started from that. And I kept on having stuff, like keeping stuff to myself, which became, I actually realize it now that was actually keeping the baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but back then it used to be like a safe spot. Okay, this happened at school. Okay, a boy hit a girl, and then I don't have a mature person to talk to, and in this case, a man to talk to probably give me a sense of enlightenment as to what it means if a boy kind of fights with a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Or let me say something happened. Of course, a male teacher caned or a male teacher caned a student, or a male teacher did something in class. For me, it used to be a thing of, I think this is how men need to act. The toughness, the like show masculinity, show that strength, that men are not supposed to be weak and all that. So most of the challenges and troubles I used to go through were used to be kept within. And I think that also created that aura around where when I got into spaces, I never used to talk. I have a story, an interesting story. I actually write about it in the book I am about to launch. About, I think, a trip we took to Kenya. No, not Kenya, to Didi's World. You know Didi's World?
Former Didi's
World, yes. So, one day, of course, they come to class. That was around, I think, primary 2, primary 1, primary 2, primary 3.
Who comes to class?
The teacher.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, there's a trip to Didi's World. We're going to take primary 2, primary 1, and primary 3. And they tell us to go and tell our parents and go and share and tell them to give us money for the trip. So what happened is I go home, I tell my mom, oh, there's this trip. We're going to Didi's World. And of course, by then, Didi's World was a thing. Like, if you're a student and you went there, oh my God. So, yeah, she gives me the money. I come back to school. But because I was very shy, of course, I paid the money. I registered my name. Part of my shyness actually was, I went ahead to be, like, even when I was in teachers, like when I saw a teacher or a teacher came or a teacher told me to sit in front, I think my relationship with teachers was also very, anything that went wrong, I'm in hot soup. So even bringing the money to the teacher, of course, it was a tough thing to do.
Do you feel like it was your perception of adults? Because back at home, that's not somewhere you joke around with. And probably you were taught to just tiptoe around adults.
Just like you say it. I think the respect, the kind of respect that we had to give them, I think was curated. Like, you had no choice but to show, and the way you had to show it was through doing certain things. If your mom is watching news, you don't have to change the channel, or don't have to.
Why would you? It's not your TV.
Yeah, it's not your TV. So if a teacher is writing notes in class, asking for permission to, someone asks for permission to go to a short call, for me it would be like, okay, I couldn't. So times like those were quite heavy. And going back to that Didi's World story, bring the money to them. For me, it felt like, oh my God, she's going to say something. She's going to say something. Yeah, so yes, I paid. I registered my name. So later on, when the day comes to go for the trip, I think they come to class and they call out the names of the people to run to the bus, to the coasters. I swear I don't remember if they read my name, but I know they read my name. But because there was a guy who was called Kiggundu as well in the same class, and I think he hadn't paid for the trip, they took that guy instead of me. Because I didn't stand up to actually move out to go to that. So I missed that bus, I missed that trip, just like that.
Were you in that school?
I was at Shimoni.
So what did your mother say?
I just told her, they left me.
How?
They left me, of course, as I came up with a story, of course, but the thing that I remember was, you know, this thing of they call out your name, you move, and everyone is looking at you. For me, it used to be like tough.
You didn't want to be looked at, yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of understand.
Exactly. So I feel like that was part of the reason as to why I was actually left. And I think this guy, for him, was really interested in going, but he hadn't actually. So I didn't put up my hand. I think I froze. I might have froze for a second. So that's how I missed going to Didi's World when I was still young.
Did you eventually go as an adult?
Thank God later. I had to make it there because I couldn't stand the story when the kids came back. So I think that's one of the stories that I vividly remember that kind of put me in that spot where, okay, I've missed out on an opportunity because of not wanting to be seen or called out or even recognized for something. Yeah. But of course, it kept changing as I grew up. It kept changing. I remember one of the most interesting things that I got into, I don't know how, but I got into scouting. And I think some of the values that are taught under scouting are service above self. And I think that became like a cover.
Yeah.
You get.
Oh, so even in the scouting, they preach that.
Yeah. Service above self. So
let me ask you.
Yes.
I think we'll draw back to that later.
Yeah, sure.
But this is a question that I wanted to ask earlier. At what point in your life do you feel like you might have realized that you are short of a parent? Or what are those things that made you realize that? And I'm asking you this question because I knew I was born without my dad. He had already died. And in my nursery school to primary 3, I was in day school. I played very well with everyone until I joined boarding school. And I realized that amongst the stories that my peers are telling, I cannot contribute to the side of a father. And so I found myself mostly as a spectator and almost, it was not, I won't say that in that very moment it was embarrassing for me not to have a story about a dad, but I knew it made me withdraw from most of these conversations. And I think it's one of those things that contributed to me being totally silent in the rest of my primary years. When I was in school, there was that shortage that I felt. So that's why I'm asking, at what point in your life did you feel like, ooh, I'm short of this?
So, backstory, my dad left when I was in primary 2. Primary one, and we had just shifted from that nursery with my sister to Shimoni, and my sister was a class above me. That is like, I was in primary 1, she was in primary 3. So he left when we were that age, and of course we were excited. I remember they picked us from school. They picked us I think around lunchtime. You're excited. I'm going to the airport. You act, and as you're leaving other students in class.
Right.
The excitement and everything that is happening in that moment as a child is exciting. Of course, my younger brother, who was now in nursery, was also picked from school. So we come home, we prepare, we see him off. And it was exciting. I think one of the things I vividly remember is when you're at the airport, by that time, you could see the plane actually fly off.
Right.
And unlike these days when you just stop at the entrance.
It's a lot going on right now.
So he left, and I think the first 2 years, 3 years were really exciting. You could call. There wasn't WhatsApp by then.
Of course.
It used to be like loads, like international calls. You have to call at a certain period of time, or either Friday. It was really exciting. You talk to him, he talks to you. And then, of course, that became less and less and less. And I wouldn't say because probably he was busy or something. I cannot attest to that. But on my side, of course, as a child, you're longing. You're like, oh, someone who went somewhere has to always come back. And so the longing started around primary 2, primary 3, because, of course, like you said, also stories that children actually talk about in school at that age are about parents, what happens at home.
My mommy did this. My daddy did this for me.
So you're now in that space where you don't contribute. You're now in that space where you don't have a story to tell. Because also you're facing the situation in your own way. But then you also, and this is something that I now realize, that even my mom was facing the situation in her own way.
Right.
So you're now dealing with like two different situations.
Everyone is silent.
Exactly.
Everyone is dealing with their life themselves.
So the way your mom is now making you focus on the books is quite different from the way she used to, because she's probably dealing with it her own way, and this is part of the ways she can probably cover up, just not to show you that she's probably sad and all that. So it was all that, and for me, that's when it started kicking in. The phone calls started reducing. The conversations, the questions, I actually normally call them questions. Like when a child keeps asking questions and answers don't come out. So the questions of when are you coming back? 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 I think that went on the whole of my primary. I don't know, for my sister, the questions could have kept on going. But for us, that's what happened. And it reached a point, I think, primary 6, primary 5, primary 6, I gave up on the questions. And I think by that time, I think it was probably life has to happen this way. And life has to go on irrespective of whether he's coming back or not. So that's when I actualized that, okay, this someone can actually be away for 2 years, for 3 years, for 4 years, and life goes on. But also because in that period, that's when our last born came into the picture, my brother Simon, and for him, it was totally a new environment, because the way he faces things, or the way he got into that environment, might not have been the way we lived in that environment with my sister. But we realized that, okay, this is the reality that we are now living, and we have to continue living it. And I think that also, in a way, affected my mom, because she now had to tell us the only thing that is going to make you peaceful is school.
Oh, that's what she told you?
Yeah, like, just read your books. But like I said, for her, I think it was a cover. I see it now because I realized probably it was a cover for her to kind of not tell us directly that he's not coming back, but to kind of tell us that, yes, we are on our own, but we have to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, it was about go to school, get the good grades, and everything will work out. So that's what I think we started focusing on, the books, the school education, but also because we used to go a lot at our grandmother's place every holiday. So the support system became a bit broader. And of course, you kind of forget that, okay, this person is not here. But of course, it keeps coming back when you go back to school and the conversations keep happening. And so it's a roller coaster every time.
I feel like home is a bit safer. No one talks about whether... I don't know how this worked out, because back at home, there were now home is like the flats of the nurses and doctors in Lubaga Hospital. That was my first home. And there were 4 flats. They were mostly boys. We played boyish games, rough games, boxing. I actually, do you know that just a few days ago, I was like, maybe I should go back to soccer.
Maybe.
Yeah, but we were just that, a bunch of kids playing. Like, okay, today what are we playing? It was from morning to night.
Yeah.
The stories would be like, do you know what? Do you remember what this one did yesterday? Do you remember when he fell? It was just that until, for me, boarding section really changed for me. I think the stories were more intimate, and I'm now thinking about it right now that it might have been coming from a place of missing home, where kids are now, trying to have these emotions shared about what's happening at home and what isn't. That's when you get to hear about the rich people's parents who are abroad, and you're like, okay, now pocket money wasn't a story because primary, that wasn't really a thing. Yeah. So that was like, I really got silent. And I think for me, what might have made it worse was that when home first changed, or home was changing when I was transitioning into boarding school. So my environment was totally different. I was, when it would be holidays, I would mostly be alone. Almost most of the time, just watching TV from morning to evening until your parent comes, and then back at school. So, oh my God, I think about those 4 years. I'm like, yo, what was that? So I understand. That's why I had to ask you that question. Like, at what point did you?
I think towards my first, I don't know if it's candidate class, but primary 7, towards primary 7. So P5, P6, that's when it hit me that, okay, I have to find solace in something else. And I think that kind of brought in all that. I made sure I find somewhere to find my peace. So I remember I played badminton. I even went to nationals at Shimoni. I played, I did scouting, like I said. Of course, we used to be very active in scouting. We went to Kenya. I remember in my primary 5, 3 people represented us, among the 3 people that represented, to go to Mombasa. And then scouting, of course, I've said that. Soccer, we used to play soccer as well. But also all these other things. But the most interesting thing that now kicked in around my primary 6 was art. And I remember this teacher's name actually. He was called Mr. Magambo Diffas. He was my social studies teacher in primary 6. So Mr. Magambo Diffas introduced us to art. Mm-hmm. Imagine a social studies teachers introducing you to art. He even told us to go buy art books, these small art books, and just keep on drawing. And he would mark us. This wasn't examined, but he would just mark us. And I think for me, I found solace in that. And I found it interesting because it even started like helping me beat the shyness a bit, because yes, when you're called upon to do something, to draw a map of Uganda on the blackboard, and of course people recognize you for that, it became exciting. It became like, oh, I can do something. I can give back to my class. I can draw on the charts for the science teachers. So that became a solace in some way. And it became exciting to now start exploring that. It wasn't examined, but it felt like every time he would come and he's telling us, we are not doing social studies today, we are going to draw. That became exciting.
I want to be part of that class.
Yeah, that became exciting. I'm actually looking for him. Because he really, really, really made us feel safe, but not in a way that he told us all our problems or what, but he gave us an outlet that we didn't expect, but it was an outlet that was important at that particular point, based on the fact that we're in school and we needed to, when you're in school and there's a lot going on, you have maths, you have science, you have English, you have social studies, and then you have art where you just kind of draw to release your emotions. It became quite exciting to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I feel that was like the start of this journey as an artist, and investment as an artist as well. Yeah, so yeah, I think that time it was both like realization that I'm in this, I have to figure out life without this person, but also I have something new to pivot the energy to. So yeah.
Let us go back to where you wanted to take us on the scouting beat.
Yeah.
The value of service above self. Above
self. Yeah.
We kind of, like I said, our stories are they have some similarities in them. I knew about, I think those are Girl Guides.
Girl Guides, yes.
No, I wasn't in that. I was amongst the Exaverians. That's Catholic best. But I think they possibly have the same values. I don't know. I never cared to find out what the Girl Guides were doing at the time. But there was that thing of service above self, and I'm hearing you talking about it as a mask or whatever it is that you mentioned. Perhaps you would reiterate that. But for me, when I got to be told that there is service above, like, because I think they gave us a ranking that it's God comes first, then your neighbor, then your community, and then you. That is if there isn't any other thing.
Yeah.
So you are basically supposed to be at the minimum of priorities. Wow. So, and I don't know if I misunderstood it, because if you're telling a child something, I think they take it in the literal sense. There is not much thinking to be involved in that. For me, I found myself in a position where I didn't know what it's even like to love myself. And these are realizations I come to later as an adult, because I just know I'm supposed to be there for someone, in whatever way, even if it means that I have to borrow money.
Yeah.
Like they want, you come to me, I don't have the money. I'm going to start looking around because, which I feel like it's people pleasing or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I found myself in that position. So I want to understand where you're coming from with that. When you say you were using it as, did you call it a mask? What did you call it?
I think yes. It was two things as well. It was me trying to now get out and do something or get out of that bubble of shyness. But also it was me, you've talked about something really interesting called people pleasing.
Right.
Where you're trying to do something so that someone could recognize you're doing something important, or someone could say you're doing something really, really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it was also that part where, yes, you're doing, because for scouts, you have to like do something like service above self, like it says, you have to do for others. And I think the idea of self-love was out of the picture in that moment. So most of the work that we used to do, or most of the camps that we used to go for, and the things we used to go for as scouts were more of, you're representing the school, you're representing this institution, and for you, it's of course good to be part of, because scouts are recognized in the school. Like you're not gotten late. You used to have like gates used to be at Shimoni used to be closed at 8.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a scout, you just pass.
Interesting.
So, the benefits were interesting.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
What was special about being a scout?
Yeah, so you had your own uniform. Sometimes
I knew that, but
so of course, as a child, of course, some of those things are really, really interesting to be part of, because they set you out apart from the rest. Not knowing that, yes, it sets you apart from the rest, but where does it leave you as a person?
Right.
And for me, that's something that I think, like you said, is something you learn later on in life. That, wow, I actually was doing a lot of people pleasing than actually focusing on myself as a person. But not to refute that scouting wasn't, of course, a good space that I learned a lot, because we also got to learn about giving back, about supporting each other, about being someone's comfort, about being someone's energy, and also about our country as the bigger picture. Because I remember we used to be the people to ring the bells. We used to be the people to raise up the flags for the school during the national. I don't know if you guys used to sing the national anthem every morning, but for us at night,
every morning
we used to sing the school anthem and the national
every morning.
Anthem. Yes,
There was assembly every day.
Not assembly, like you stand up
Wherever you are.
wherever you are.
Yo.
So they ring the bell, you stand up. So for us as scouts, you go to that point where the flags are. So you do, I don't remember what it is, but you do it's called is that format you do. You go to the flags.
Something of tease attention.
Yeah, exactly. So you go to the flags. So the person who is ringing the bell, they train you this as a scout. So that's why I was saying, as a scout, you were set apart.
We saw the Girl Guides.
Yeah, you were set apart from the rest of the students, because there are extra curricular activities that you actually used to go through, the training, and also because you were given the badges as a scout, so everyone worked towards getting that badge. And I think that was one of the things that probably kept me there, because that recognition probably could give me hope that someone is actually out there watching what I'm doing. Yeah, so we'd go to camps, of course, come back. They call us out at assembly, recognize us. Yeah, but it's, when you look at it right now, you see a lot of were doing this. Yes, I was learning from the community, but where did this leave me as a person? It was me covering up probably what was going on at home, what was going on in my space as a person, as a young man. And also, there's something really interesting that I got to find out recently that used to happen a lot when I was still young.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that idea of toxic masculinity where they tell you men shouldn't cry, men have to be bold, men have to be strong.
Where could you have first heard it?
I think I give it a term, or it made sense in my later stages of life.
No, I'm asking, where could you have first heard that kind of talk?
Conversations.
The kind of...
I think the communities in which we exist, of course, where our home is, it was a community. I think our village is a very communal village. We used to have probably the largest compound at our village in Luvowa.
Mm.
And all kids from the neighborhood would just come and play from there. And of course, you would hear stories. From their homes. And I think for me now, that's where the stories used to happen as well. Because now you're at school, you're dealing with stories. Now even at home, the stories get to start because all these kids are coming to your home and they're playing. And of course, they see your mom, but they don't see your dad. And then they question.
They ask you.
Ooh,
and you don't have answers.
You don't have answers. But also when you get to meet like the neighbors who are like men, and they, of course, kind of tell you have to be strong, you have to be you have to be strong, you have to go through life, men have to be hard. So I think for me that's where it started. And it kept on getting even outside the community where you meet your uncles, some of your uncles, the male figures you would think would be supportive, would be listening more to you or seeing you for you, and them telling you have to be strong, you have to go through life, men have to be hard, men don't have to cry. And for me, I think by then it wouldn't make sense. Right now, it's when you look at it and you're like, oh my God, this was actually them telling me to bottle up whatever I was going through. And I think that also added to everything that was going on in that moment. Yeah.
At what point do you feel like you started doing some transformations in your life?
Hard one.
Okay.
Some transformation.
No, by transformations, I'm asking from the angle of emotions that you had around your dad to also coming to a place of feeling like, wait a minute, I don't think this men don't cry serves me. How do I go around it?
That was actually pretty recent.
How recent is that?
That's the most interesting part.
Is it a few weeks?
No, not a few weeks. But I think like you said as well, of course, when I left primary and you go into boarding. Now, the interesting story about my boarding was I was going to Ndeje, and in my mind, I knew Ndeje, the one next to home. I was really excited. I'm going to be next to home, only to find out I was being taken way across the city to a deeper village. And this is where I was going to be left. So I remember I cried actually the first day. I stood under a tree and cried. That tree is actually next to the main hall. And I was like, these people have actually left me here.
What's that, senior one?
Senior one, yes. And of course, you have to figure out life now. You're on your own. My sister was in Nabingo. Now, remember, my sister used to be that person who is
protective.
And now she's nowhere. And you're here. You have to figure out life on your own. And I think those moments start to now give you a clearer picture of, okay, if I'm dealing with something, I have to figure out how to go about it. Yeah, so senior one was pretty tough. Just being in a space where there are new faces, new stories, new conversations. And this is not a space whereby you're going to be like, oh, it's 6 p.m. I have to go home. Yeah,
You're right there.
yeah, you're there. It's that space, and you have to exist in that space. That means in the dormitory, you have to be there. In the classroom, you have to be there. In the dining, you have to. So you're there. So for me, it's even the point of getting friends. It took a long time because I was very, very introverted. Now I now get it. It was more like, okay, scouting is not here. All these things are not here. I now have to go back into my safe space of, I'm the quiet one here. I'm just observing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it got to that, and I think as I did that, I also realized that realization that you're here and you have to exist in this space also gave me that. I wouldn't say enlightenment, but give me like a small picture of I have to deal with the things. If I don't have pocket money, that means I won't go out like and tell my mom in her room. I have to find a way of reaching out to her because you don't have a phone here. You don't have people to, like my sister, to give me money. So it came to that point whereby you have to figure out life, but also because you're in a space with different genders, men, women.
Oh, it was a mixed school.
It's a mixed school.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay.
So you're in that space where, of course, my mom had friends who are teachers, but you wouldn't want to be caught in the wrong. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing in my high school. Like, remember when I told you my mom now made us focus more on the books?
Mm-hmm.
So it reached a point whereby if it wasn't books, if my mom was called for anything other than books that you did at school, that would be troublesome for you. So for me, it got to that point whereby the people pleasing, I think, got to the extreme whereby I had to do good so that the teachers who are friends to my mom get to notice that, oh, this boy is actually...
They're giving good reports.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that, and I didn't do it because I wanted to be the good one, but it was because I wanted a good report back to my parent, but also because it was now that safe zone that I felt like maybe this is how I have to react in school. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is the character I have to embody in school. Maybe this is what school is. High boarding school is, because it was my first time in boarding, senior one. So, but also on the flip side, now art was a subject. And that, I think, for me was the exciting thing, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, why did they make it a subject? That's stressing me.
Yeah, no, because now I knew I would be examined. And I think I would be examined and then a report be taken back to my mom. In primary, it was all about this. You're doing that for fun, but you have to pass social studies.
Right.
You get.
And now this is examinable.
Exactly, and probably...
And
gradable, exactly. So on the flip side now, that was pretty interesting. So I spent a lot of time now trying to understand how do I fit into this and kind of grow out of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, you've explained. Okay, that's different. Because I was going to ask you whether you did better out of the art classes than in, like, when it comes to art. Because for me, I was introduced to art outside class. And so even when I would draw, when I was silent, could just sit aside and start drawing or write some songs. But when it was class, like, perhaps I'm not even in the mood. Why are you telling me to draw a shoe?
Yeah.
Why are you bringing that chair?
Yeah.
So I think it was easy, but I noticed that there's a time when my art teacher came to my workplace in my senior 6 fac, and he was like, because I had drawn some pictures and pinned them where I was working, and he was like, but you weren't producing this in school.
Yeah.
And I had no answers. Like, I wasn't. Like, I was just like,
imagine.
But as time went on, I think I realized, class, this was scheduled, this was exams.
Curated exams.
So when I'm in my zone, I'm going to give myself time. I'm going to draw when I'm feeling artsy, I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I was going to go with that. But let's now go to yourself as an artist. Now you have found yourself in a school, in secondary school, let's say, where art is gradable. Where did you see yourself with that? Did you ever feel like, because now you're an artist full time. I don't know who I was talking to, but I was like, he's an artist, like, just, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was that I was talking to. At what point did you feel like, this is something that I want to do the rest of my life?
Form 3.
Because I'm seeing it goes from a coping mechanism or something that is just giving you life, or something that makes you feel recognized. Form 3, did you know any artists that were making money out of it?
Apparently, no.
So how did you say, this is going to be my life?
So Form 1, of course, fitting into the space.
Or maybe the question should be, what it is that you wanted to be when growing up?
Pilot.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be a pilot so bad.
Is that because you were on Entebbe Road?
I think so.
Because you know why I'm asking you that question?
Yeah.
I think it's Willie who mentioned that thing, that most of the kids that grew up in Entebbe,
Wow. Yeah.
that was the dream.
Yeah, but also because it was a fancy thing to say.
Yeah.
I want to be a pilot.
And there are few.
Yeah.
It's not everyone who says
exactly.
that.
So, but also because I come from a family background where probably there are not many pilots, not many people in that field. My mom is a secretary. My dad is an accountant by profession. And I used to say pilot because it used to be fancy. But then, of course, I think boarding school kind of puts you in that place whereby you start to actualize, especially when Form 1 is like you're trying to fit in. Mm-hmm. Then Form 2, you start to actually see that, okay, I'm not good at biology. I'm not good at chemistry. Chemistry is too much business, too much science.
Right.
And then Form 3 is where now you're choosing. I think that's a class where you choose. Mm-hmm. And for me, when I remember that time when we had to choose subjects, I went back home and I told my mom, okay, we have all these. And I remember almost 3/4 of our class went into the commerce class. So we are
Why
there.
did they do that?
I don't know. I think
people went for commerce as well, and for me, I was like, why?
Peer pressure.
What is there? What pressure is there in commerce?
I think peer pressure, because you're in that place the first time the first time before you choose the subjects, you actually go and test out the classes. So most people ran to commerce, and I think the teachers got to sit down and realize this commerce class is too big. We need to send some people in Luganda, in French.
To send?
Yeah. Based on how their performance has been Form 1 and Form 2.
Why did everyone go to commerce?
I don't know.
I think we studied commerce. Yes, we do actually study commerce from senior 1 to senior 2. But for me, I think I had a new book in every commerce class. I just, probably it's because I always kept telling kids that, my classmates, that I'm never going to do business. That's how I understood it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't think I'll ever do a business.
Yeah, I think it was peer pressure. Like, go where the wind is sending everyone. So everyone went to that class. But it was also trying to find out, how is the first lesson? Do I think that I can come back here tomorrow? Yeah, so before we knew it, the teachers are coming. They're like, we're sending this list to Luganda. We're sending this list to French. But on the other side, because there were 2 subjects we had to choose, on the other side, I had chosen arts. Like, that was like it. Mm-hmm. But then on this other side, I was still struggling. Should I do commerce? So they sent me to Luganda. And we were around 22 people in the Luganda class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's how I ended up doing Luganda and arts. And I think for me, Form 3 was now like that pivot where I was like, I think I'm going to do art. Because the background as well, I had started doing some artworks. I had started doing drawing on charts for teachers, even in the biology science classes. Science classes, chemistry, biology, now maps for the geography teachers. And this is like Form 1, Form 2. And now I realize this is something I actually love doing. Mm-hmm. Something that gives me, like, kind of makes me forget about whatever is going on in my life, but also back at home. And I think it became interesting. Like, I could feel rejuvenated every time I did it. And so Form 3, I was like, I'm going to be an artist. My mom was like, oh yeah, but there are other things that you can be, there are other things that you can do. But I think I had decided I'm going to be an artist. So I started working towards that. And by working towards that, I started engaging in whatever art activities that were happening at school.
Now, my question really is, what did you even mean at that time? And I'm asking you this because, like, your story is that you went somewhere else trying to figure out which other subject you can add. I don't remember what I had chosen. I had chosen French. And what? There was some subject that I chose. And that's because at that time, French and art had been placed in the same category. And you couldn't choose 2 subjects in one category.
Yeah.
And I chose French. Plus, I don't know what. And everyone was like, what? No, you cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot leave art. And I'm like, that's just talent. I can just do that anytime. Yeah. This one I'm learning. So, but then later on they split. And I don't know why. I don't know who made that decision. But later on it was split and I could take the 2 subjects. But still, it was not that I dream of being an artist. A-level, I still did art. And that was because I wanted to just study 3 subjects. I knew I didn't have to read art. It was just, I can't just do that.
Pass and all that.
But still, I'm not seeing anything like there is an artist, someone who is making a life out of it. I'm just, because even in my mind, I knew I was going to be a doctor. And then it comes to A-levels, they're telling me, no, we can't give you sciences because you scored credits. We want distinction. And I'm stuck. I'm like, what do people do in art? I'm really confused because I had heard of lawyers, of course, but what? What else am I supposed to do with my life?
Yeah.
Nothing like I can be an artist. So that's why I'm still asking you, where do you come up with this thing of, how? Could you have seen someone?
I think, yeah, actually, now that you say it, I remember one of our teachers used to be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and...
but he was a teacher.
He was a teacher, yes. He was a teacher. But he used to be also a practicing artist, as like teaching, but also practicing.
Okay. And you were aware of the things that he used to do?
He used to actually tell us some of the things that he used to do, like some of the exhibitions he used to do. He's called Mr. Sendagire from Deje. And he could show you, like, I've exhibited here, I've exhibited at this hotel. And you're like, okay, that sounds nice. But then I still had this idea of, as an artist, to make money, just make work, sell it, and people give you money. Mm-hmm. And I felt, for me, that was the idea of making money through art. And I felt like it would be that easy. I think that the fact that I felt like it's the easiest way of making money without
no hassle.
No hassle. If I'm good at this and I do this, and then someone just comes and they're like, wow, this is good.
Oh, they're giving me money.
They're going to give me money. Yeah, so, but also because...
When does reality hit?
I'm coming to that. But also because it was an escape. It was more like a pivot of my energy. The energy I had spent trying to ask questions about, when is my dad coming back? When is this happening? When is he sending something? Because he used to send us toys when we were still young. And then all of that started to become less. And then you're like, when is this happening? So art became like a pivot. I had found like something to probably pour in my energy. And I think Form 3 and Form 4, yes, when I actualized in Form 3, I made sure I had to pass Form 4, because you can't just say you want to be an artist as a career and then you fail to pass Form 4. So I started pushing my grades, especially with the art that I was doing. I started pushing the grades so hard so that I get a distinction. The least I could get I wanted to get was a D2. So I used to engage a lot with the teacher, like be in his space a lot. And I think that's when he got to share with us most of those things, most of the things he used to do, most of the things he used to experiment outside school. And that became exciting for us to see, especially the art students that were in his class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's how I realized, but also see, I think even his demeanor as a person kind of gave us that, because not many teachers were doing something outside. And for me, that was like, he has a fallback. Yeah. He has a fallback. Not many teachers have that. A biology teacher is always a biology teacher. And I think also the aura around teaching kind of gave me that okay, this guy teaches, but then he practices. So I can juggle. If I'm an artist, yes, it's a hobby, but I can make money off it and probably do something else. And I think it was before you reach that Form 4 level where you have to now select the course, the combination. It was a leverage I gave my mom when I said I wanted to be an artist, and she was like, "Oh, you can choose something else." So I think Form 3 and Form 4 was that leverage. You're like, yeah, because it's also my teacher is doing something else. Probably I can be an artist and be something else.
Right.
But then also Form 4 happened. I had gotten a distinction 1. So here we are. Time to choose combinations. And I think for me, art was already that thing that had to be there. And it was also that time where I now had to come to terms with the fact that this is going to be my career, irrespective of who says what or what. Yeah, so I remember we put a couple of combinations, but I was actually called back to Ndeje because we had performed very highly. And I got a 17, I think, out of 8. A distinction 1 in Luganda.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of the things that I tell people recently was, if I wasn't an artist, I think I was going to be
a Luganda teacher.
On the radio. Luganda teacher, probably. Because even leaving commerce for Luganda, I feel like, I don't know how these guys saw that I fit in Luganda, but I feel like it was something very interesting because the Luganda class was very lively. This also felt
they were
like,
actually fun, but
yeah,
I had
it
to
felt
run.
like you're home, like no one is stopping you from speaking.
No one is giving you a card.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a sack.
But then you're learning even more.
No, I didn't.
What you actually know
I
as a
think
person.
I think I was interested in learning Luganda.
Yeah.
But I think what kicked me out of the Luganda class was I put up my hand one time and I wanted clarity on something. So, of course, I asked in English.
Oh.
And the teacher was like, "This is a Luganda class, ask in Luganda." And, ooh. Ooh.
Wow.
Woo! I didn't have the words. So I was like, woo.
Yeah.
And so when I went back home, I had actually scored an 80 something. That was first term. So when I went back home, my brother was like, "Let me tell you, Luganda is hard. You need to enter the French class."
Yeah.
So because I had that in mind, like when they told me, and I was like, okay, I think this will get more complex.
Yeah.
I was like, this is.
For me, I found it, and because we are also very less, imagine you're coming from a commerce class where you're over like 150 students.
Ooh.
And then you come in.
22 is quite intimate.
Yeah. And they even get to tell you some of your teachers are examiners. You're like, oh, why would I fail such a subject? And you're in class, you're lively, the reading is Luganda. This is what you speak at home. This is what you actually... And then you also get to realize what you speak at home is not necessarily
Sound correct.
Deep
Right.
Luganda. And you're like, oh, so I can learn something from school and go back home and show off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was that interesting. And I think for me, those choices kind of pushed me into that place of I need to do something around art. And that's how I ended up doing history, economics, geography, and art. Yeah, because now I think for history, it's because of the combinations and how they was put together. Economics, I wasn't so much interested in economics.
Given its background in commerce.
Yeah. Geography, I was, because I used to draw maps. I would want to know places. I would want to know different things about nature and all that. But also because our geography teachers used to engage us artists a lot in helping them draw this. So it became like that thing that kind of I get to practice probably what I'm learning as well. Yeah, so for art, it was like, thank God I'm here.
Yeah, right now we have Kiggundu Art Studio, Uganda.
Yeah.
Going on. How do you get to that space of saying, okay, we now have an art studio, this is what's happening. How is it going for you?
Kiggundu Art Studio is actually the idea of having a studio started, I think, around 2018, 2017. But this is like a year or two after I had graduated at the School of Art. But going back a bit, on my Form 5, when I had taken art, that teacher took us to a tour at the School of Art and then took us to Chambogo. And for me, that visit to the School of Art and to Chambogo was like, I want to be here. Based on what I had seen, the students had exhibited. Because every year, every final year, you get to exhibit. You do like an exhibition, and it's a course unit that you have to pass. So I was like, I have to be here. So even choosing arts at university was, my mom was saying, she used to still have that doubt. Art is hobby. And for me, I was like, I need art. I want art. And because I started making some money, vacation, you get vacation, you're now into not the business, you're now into exchanging product for money. So it had become quite exciting. Not many vacists were doing that. So university happens around our second year. We start an organization with a couple of friends. It's called Streetlight. It's still existing. And this was, I think, for me, this was the introduction to working with community. And that introduction was, of course, working with street children through art, empowering them to be better citizens. Here you're in second year, you're juggling school and doing this. It started as a campaign, of course, but then later it became an organization. But of course, that was 2014. 2014 to 2017, I had done quite a lot of engaging with community. And I think, like you asked earlier, one of the things that got to me around 2017 was giving away a lot, and I wasn't filling my cup. And I feel that's actually one of the times I get to start realizing that I was emptying my cup, and I kept on emptying my cup. Yes, I had done the art, I had engaged in spaces and engaged with people. I had now started getting out of my shyness. I was like, I feel exhausted. I feel like this is exhausting. I didn't see it this way. I used to think you just paint and people come and buy. It had become exhausting, but not in a bad way, but I felt like I needed some time to reflect on myself as an artist, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You're trying to empower these children, but you're also not. You need the advice. You need the advice yourself. So 2017 was that moment of reflection, and from 2017 I embarked on a journey of self-reflection, trying to figure out who is Rodney and what is Rodney giving out? Who is Rodney trying to empower? Or who is Rodney trying to be? Yeah, and of course, as you do that, you get to realize that the past you has been a lot of people pleasing, has been a lot of trying to be in a space or trying to tell a story that is even not yours. And for me, that became a reality. I was like, what is my story? How do I tell my story? So those are some of the questions I started asking myself. And it actually hit me that's when I actually got to find out, my grandfather, who was Kiggundu, was an artist. You get. And then you're like, okay, that's interesting. An interesting revelation. And you're like, okay, how do I move forward as an artist? I'm a painter, I do this. And of course, I remember in 2016, 2017, I had won the Mabati competition. I think just out of campus, I needed to make a mark so that people get to know who is Rodney. So I had done the saddling competition, and I had become second runners-up for the Mabati competition. And then people had started seeing, who is this guy? Yeah, but then they had started seeing, but then I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't yet there. I wasn't there yet. And I was scared. It got me to a point whereby I'm like, I think that's when the imposter syndrome now started being. I'm like, okay, this girl, I'm saying I'm this, but I'm not yet there. I'm not yet there. So down the road, 2018, I started, I think, intentionally. I remember I was actually home. So while I was home, space became so little for me because I had started painting. I was getting all these gigs, these portraits for people to do, for me to do for people. And my mom was always like, we're going to be art, like trying to say that your art things are everywhere. Your paint is everywhere. You need to like get a place for yourself to do these other things. So at home I was doing that, and then back in Kampala, we were doing the organization work. You're moving around with street children, looking for street children in different communities. Then you're back at home, you're trying to draw people's commissions and all that. And then she was like, I think you need a space for your own work. But it was also a moment whereby I realized, I think I need to be away from these people. You know, when you're practicing from home, it's different from when you're practicing from somewhere else.
How different is it?
At home, it's very easy for someone to interrupt your creative process. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was that. It reached a point whereby it was that you're being sent somewhere and you're not even sure when you're going to come back. So it got to that. And I remember my mom was like, yeah, so my mom had, of course, gotten some property. She had some property. So there's that house in Deje where she was like, I think you should go there. I've given you one room. Just go and start. And for me, I felt like, okay, this is even bigger than like something I expected. I expected probably something smaller. Yeah, she has given me a whole world. I can be there. No one disturbs me. No one kind of calls me to do something. I create. So I went there 2018. I shifted from home and I went there. And when I went there, of course, I was doing all this other work in town, back to that space. I create. I'm in town during the day. At night, I'm that side creating. And for me, it was more of a safe space now. And that place whereby I could now focus on myself as an artist. But then later I realized my art wouldn't just benefit me. I think that part of the community had kind of gotten into my life as well, but also because I used to see it a lot with my mom. When she's trying to do something, she's a communal person. She doesn't let something just be done in a small. She always wants the community to know something. She always wants to involve the community. So I think I had learned subconsciously from her about that. And then here I am with my one room at the studio. By then, it wasn't even named Kiggundu Art Studio. It was Kiggundu Rodney Art Studio. Yeah, because I wanted my name out there, but also I wanted to know people. I tell people now, I'm an artist. When I go to the streets and I'm talking to these children, I tell them I have a studio. Yes, you can work and also get a studio.
Yeah.
Then there comes an opportunity. And for me now, I think because I was doing a lot of self-reflection, I used to apply for a lot of things. I used to reach out to a lot of artists, go to art events, go to art exhibitions, engage in art markets. And the thing was to get into a space that had a lot of artists and learn from them. Because I wanted to just be part of that community of artists. Fast forward, someone sends me an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to travel to India. And there I am. I'm like, I've never been out of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And this opportunity was all expenses paid. All you had to do was to just present your passport, of course, the artworks you had done in the past, and pay for the visa. This is 2019 now. And yes, I get the opportunity. I travel for the first time. I traveled 2 times. The first time it was 10 days in India. And oh my God, I reach there, I meet artists who are doing this, who are doing that. Mm-hmm. And then I come back after 10 days. I'm like, okay. But then there was another opportunity still in India to go back for 1 month. So we go back for 1 month. And I think that has been the game changer for me. And by game changer, I mean it opened up my eyes to the possibilities of what art can do and what art can be. And when I went there, we were over 50 artists from across the world. Here you are, just doing art for yourself back at home, and also with, of course, with some community work out here in the city. And then you're there with artists who are like, oh, this is my story, this is what I do, this is what I create. I remember every artist had to do a presentation, but I didn't do a presentation because...
What did you do?
I didn't do, but it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming because I was like, what am I doing back home? Yes, I had started a studio, but it was benefiting me as a person. And of course, the other work with the community. Of course, I talked to people about what I was doing back home, and they were really excited, especially about the community work that I was doing. More than just my studio, that where I was doing a lot of work on myself by then. And then I was like, I think I need to do I remember when we came back, that's when I got to talk to Mom. I'm like, I think I need to expand my studio. And I think 2019, 2020, that's when COVID hit. Just after I'd come back. And I think for me, that was a time where I really invested in seeing that Kiggundu's art studio becomes what it is right now. I invested time in creating that space that I felt like was going to benefit not just me, but the community around. Mm-hmm. Not just me, but the artists from within the community around that don't have an opportunity to come back or come to the city or go to exhibitions in the city or get to meet these people. And for me, that's what I started to create. And that was the idea, to give opportunity to young artists who are just probably like me, who have not gotten an opportunity to be at art school. Mm-hmm. But also students who are like me, who didn't get an opportunity. I got the opportunity in school, but some students don't have the opportunity to have practicing teachers. Artists like me who are out of university and you don't have an idea of what you're going to be doing. Yes, you wanted that to be an artist, but you're now here after art school and life is happening. So for me, the studio is that place that gives that sense of direction. And it comes back to the younger me that's trying to identify what is art, what can be of this. Yeah, and I think it has evolved over time, even with the way I do it, because earlier on I was just painting for the sake of painting. And then I started delving deeper into themes that were because I used to work with the community, I started delving in themes that were focusing on the issues that people are going through: mental health, social cohesion, where there are disparities in communities, and you're trying to use your art to talk about that. And for me, that's where now I started to understand that art is beyond just you painting and making the money, and it gets into that space of how do you benefit the immediate community around you. And I feel like my space, Kiggundu Art Studio, has been doing that since 2021, because now after COVID, 2021 is when I officially opened the doors to the community to come and engage with the space. At first I thought no one is going to walk in. Now the imposter syndrome kicking in. No one is going to walk in. I'm there seated at a studio. I think some people were passing around and are like, what is this guy up to? What is he doing? Yeah, and I'm there one day. This gentleman walks in and he's like, I work from my room. I want to have a space to work from. So I came to you. He's called Mugisha Emmanuel. Currently, he's the logistics head at the studio. But he walks in. This is 2022. He tells me, I want space to work from. I work from a small desk in my bedroom. And my mom is always complaining, why are you always on your beads? Like, can't you do something else? Your friends are out there. They are moving things. They are studying things. And I told him, you're welcome. And for me, that was the first time I now started seeing that happening. More people kept on walking in. And I think it started getting back to I started actualizing, how should I say that? It started dawning on me that, okay, this space is actually relevant in the community in which it exists.
Right.
And I started focusing more on how to make that possible to as many artists as possible, both from within the community and also outside the community, beyond. And I think when I started doing that, also the people I had, the networks that I had built amongst the spaces I used to go through started coming to engage with the space. And for me, it got exciting because now I was pulling the networks back to my community, which was something quite hard because there's a story I normally tell people that throughout my work, I told you I had started making some money. I used to hawk art, like you walk to the neighbors, you tell them, oh, I do this and I'm selling it. And they're like, oh, it's nice, but we don't have money, unfortunately. So you move on to the next neighbor and all that. That's before I started the studio. And for me, creating the studio was to kind of give opportunity to such artists to kind of have a place whereby they can call home and also grow and expand their knowledge, resources, and expertise from, because I'm at a level currently where I can attract different people into the space to share their knowledge, to share their networks with the young artists. And for me, that gives me satisfaction, even if I don't paint every day. I believe I'm creating change throughout my art because I take the studio as part of my creation. And for me, that's basically what Kiggundu Art Studio does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've shared your journey and also highlighted how impactful art has been in your life. For any young artist daring to enter the field, and for those who are already in and are trying to figure life out for themselves, what advice can you leave with them?
The advice I would give any young daring artist out there trying to venture into the industry, and this is both performing and visual, because most times when you look at, we're in a country where when you talk about artists, it's very easy to run to the performing.
Yeah.
I normally tell the artists at studio that community is currency. Like, yes, people can pay you 20 million for an artwork, but if your ideas are only within the four corners of your painting,
right,
they will always be there. So you have to look at your practice beyond the four corners of your painting, or if you are a person who draws, you're drawing. Because most times, yes, you can get all that money, but your neighbor or your community just next door is struggling. And that has a way it's going to reflect on who you are as an artist. I have a mentor, a person I look up to is called Ibrahim Mahama. There's something he said that if you become an artist, you have to carry the responsibility that comes with it. And I believe as artists, we have that responsibility. And because we live in a demographic where the responsibility is higher than probably some communities out there in the world, we have a huge responsibility to talk about the things that are affecting people around health. We have a lot of responsibility to talk about things affecting people around agriculture, around all these parts of the economy that people think art can't influence. And I believe art can influence all those parts of the economy because it's a language that no one needs to know how to speak it to do it. Yeah, I normally tell people you don't have to be a good portrait artist to be called an artist, but you can just share your ideas, your values through your art, so that people get to understand that and carry that to the next generations. And I believe for artists, we have that huge responsibility to do that. Art has the power to change lives. Art has the power to influence how we feel, how we relate with people. I feel like I'm at a better place because art has helped me overcome some of those challenges that I used to face, the imposter syndrome, the shyness as well. I can speak about what I do much easier than I used to, because back then it used to be more of, that's a hobby.
Right.
You can't, it has no huge importance to our lives. But right now I can speak in public and talk about how art can influence health, how art can influence mental health, how all these aspects of art and different art forms can be used as a vehicle towards change. Yeah.
I mean, you're a living testimony, as far as
exactly
art impacting someone's mental health.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's it for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for honoring the invite.
And thank you very much for your time. It's really been an amazing conversation. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for hanging out with us to the very end. If you loved this episode, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening in. And if your platform allows you to comment on a particular episode, the engagement is going to help us grow. Also share the link. Whoever sent you the link, spread the link further. Whatever link that you're using, make sure that it gets to your neighbor, your cousin, your enemies, your ex, your co-wife, your co-husband. We are a family, and it is by the power of our community that we shall make the podcast grow. So whoever you can reach, make sure that they know #time with Nabuguzi Chwonika. You can also share your insights about what connected with you on social media. Be sure to tag us. We are at #time with Nabuguzi Chwonika on Facebook and Instagram, and on X. Oh, I almost said Twitter. And on X, our handle is at HTNK Podcast. You can also use the hashtag HTNK and say Sean. Goodbye.